Here is something most people never stop to think about. The way you see other people right now, today, is probably wrong, not because you are a bad judge of character, but because your brain was never built to see people clearly. It was built to see people quickly, and quick is not the same as true. Today we are going to look at 10 simple truths about human psychology, the kind of truths that once you hear them, you cannot unhear them. By the end of this, you will not look at your coworker, your neighbor, or even your own family the same way again. Something in you is going to shift. So stay with me, because this is not just information. This is the kind of understanding that changes how you move through the world. Here is the first hidden truth. Almost everything a person shows you on the outside is a cover for something happening on the inside. The loud person at the party is often the loneliest one in the room. The person who always needs to be right is usually the one who feels unseen. We spend our whole lives reading faces, tone, and body language, thinking we are reading the truth. But most of the time, we are only reading the mask, and the mask is built for protection, not honesty. So here is a question worth sitting with. If people are always performing some version of themselves, then who are we actually talking to when we talk to someone? Are we meeting the real person? Or are we meeting the character they built to survive? This is where psychology gives us something powerful. Every human being carries an old wound, something from childhood, from rejection, from a moment they were made to feel small. And without even knowing it, they spend their adult life either protecting that wound or trying to prove it wrong. That is why a grown man can get furious over something small, like being interrupted in a meeting. It is not really about the meeting. It is about a much older moment where his voice did not matter. Once you understand this, you stop taking people's reactions so personally. You start seeing the child underneath the adult. Let me give you a real example. Imagine a woman who is always checking on her partner, always asking where he is, always needing reassurance. From the outside, people might call her controlling. But if you go back to her story, maybe she grew up with a parent who left without warning. Her nervous system learned one lesson early. People disappear. So now, as an adult, her mind is not trying to control her partner. It is trying to prevent a childhood pain from happening again. When you understand this, her behavior stops looking like a flaw. It starts looking like a wound, asking to be healed. And this leads us somewhere deeper. Most conflict between people is not really about the thing they are arguing over. It is about whether they feel respected, whether they feel safe, and whether they feel like they matter. Two people can argue about dishes in the sink for 20 minutes, but the real question underneath is always the same. Do you see me? Do you value me? Once you learn to hear that question underneath every argument, you stop fighting the surface issue and start speaking to the real one. And that alone can save relationships. Here is another question that might surprise you. Why do we judge other people so quickly, sometimes in less than a second, based on nothing more than a glance? The answer is simple and a little humbling. Our brain is not designed for fairness. It is designed for speed and safety. In early human history, a fast judgment about a stranger could mean the difference between life and death. So even today, your mind still makes lightning-fast guesses about people, guesses built on old instincts, not present truth. That is why first impressions are so often wrong, yet we trust them so completely. Now here is the shift that changes everything. Once you know your first read of someone is shaped by instinct and not fact, You can start pausing before you decide who someone is. You can ask yourself a simple, honest question. What might be happening in this person's life that I cannot see? This one habit, just pausing and asking that question, can soften almost every judgment you make. It does not mean ignoring red flags. It means giving people the same complexity you would want given to you. There is something else worth knowing, something that touches almost everyone. People rarely change because they are told they are wrong. They change when they feel safe enough to be honest with themselves. Criticism, even when true, tends to make people defensive. But understanding, even without agreement, tends to open people up. This is why the people who are the hardest to reach are usually not reached through argument. They are reached through patience, through someone finally making them feel heard instead of corrected. So let this sink in for a moment. Every person you meet today is fighting something you cannot see, carrying something you were never told about, and reacting from a story that started long before you arrived in their life. The tired cashier, the short-tempered driver, the friend who suddenly went quiet, they are not simply their behavior. They are the sum of everything that shaped them, most of which stays hidden. This is the emotional shift that real understanding brings. It is not about excusing bad behavior or letting people walk over you. It is about lowering the constant judgment we carry, the exhausting habit of deciding who someone is based on one moment, one mood, one bad day. When you understand psychology even a little, you start extending the same grace to strangers that you hope people extend to you. And maybe that is the real lesson hiding inside all of this. We spend so much energy trying to be understood by others, yet so little energy trying to understand them first. But understanding is not weakness. It is one of the most quietly powerful things a person can offer another human being. It disarms anger. It builds trust. It turns strangers into people, and people into something closer to family. So the next time someone frustrates you, confuses you, or hurts you without explanation, pause for just a second. Remember that you are only seeing the surface of a much deeper story. You do not have to solve it. You do not even have to agree with it. But choosing to see it, that alone changes everything. If this made you think differently about the people in your life, even for a moment, that was the point. Take a second to subscribe, because there is so much more of this kind of thinking waiting for you. And I would love to know, which one of these 10 truths hit you the hardest? Leave it in the comments. Someone else reading it might need to hear exactly what you have to say.